Good afternoon, everyone. We are pleased to having you join us to conclude our series of virtual town halls hosted by Digital Promises League of Innovative Schools. Today, our focus is on strategic technology sustainability plans, how they have helped school districts pivot and transition during this pandemic, and how they are being adapted to plan and extend remote learning. Today, Digital Promises League of Innovative Schools Chief Technology Officers will discuss how their districts have developed and maintained technology plans that have supported transformational teaching and learning practices and how they will ensure powerful learning opportunities for students in the fall. We will also hear from my lead colleague about Data Ready 21 cohort. This is an opportunity that will provide districts and support you to guide in resilient and actionable data plans for the future. I am Dwayne McClary, the director of the League of Innovative Schools, and my co-host, Ms. Kimberly Smith, the executive director of the League. Kim, can you review the format of the sessions for us today?
I was on mute. All right, absolutely. For today, we are going to allocate the first about half hour to Q&A that we've prepared for the guests. And then we are going to, about halfway through, promote an opportunity to join a data ready cohort that we're hosting starting in July. And then we will switch to open Q&A. So please submit your questions to the QA box that you see at the bottom of your screen, and I'll be watching those come in and have them all teed up for us to ask our guests at the end of the planned QA. All right, that's it. Back to you.
Thank you, Kim. Joining us today are our League of Innovative School Technology Officers, Mr. Jaraun Dennis of Uinta County Schools in Wyoming, Ms. Erica Hartman of Morris School District in New Jersey, and Mr. Patrick Giddish-Rabungal of San Diego County Office of Education in California. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so let's jump right in. Starting off with an icebreaker, how do you define technology sustainability? How do you define technology sustainability? And we'll start with you, Patrick.
Sure. So, sustainability to me is all about, really planning for the long term. And I think I mentioned to you, Dwayne, before that budget-wise, I think it's making sure that you set priorities, really looking at goals over a 3 to 5 year period, really focusing on high needs, high impact areas. As a county office, we definitely want to focus on our most vulnerable and underserved students who need that access and connectivity. So to me, that's sustainability. Again, also identifying multiple sources of funding, whether it's special programs, some of the nonprofit partnerships that we have, grants, federal E-rate dollars, looking at multiple sectors and verticals that are kind of around this funding and sustainability model. I think looking at other areas when it comes to tech is also important. So, as a county office, we're also focused around esports. So again, that just helps with sustaining some of the technology we have in the county.
So tell us a little bit about your demographics, Patrick. How many school districts do you serve, number of students?
Sure. So San Diego County office, we actually support 42 school districts in the San Diego region. That actually comprises of roughly 500,000 students. And there's about, nearly 780 schools that we support. We actually run our own juvenile court and community schools. So, that's another area. We have 125 charters in the region. We actually do payroll for about 22,000 teachers. So you can imagine the scale and scope of the work that we do. And so I'm just very fortunate to be a part of a county office that really provides a lot of guidance to our districts and charters.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Jaraun, we'll go to you. How do you define tech sustainability, and give me a little bit about your district demographics?
All right. Hey, thanks, Dwayne. As I think about what Patrick mentioned about sustainability, I concur with everything he said. And then I think also building upon that is the idea and notion of as you bring something in, is what's that going to look like in 3 to 5 years? And do you have a funding stream for that, whether that be through ongoing grants, whether it be a foundation, whether it be your general budgets? Because the last thing you want to do is introduce some new technology, a new piece of tool to teachers and then just say, oh man, hope you enjoyed it, we're taking that away. Good luck next time. And so I think for us, that's really the big idea, is really that idea of sustainability. What's it going to look like 3, 5, even 10 years? It might be Chromebooks today and it might be Z-books tomorrow. But how do you manage that? How do you continue that ongoing maintenance and all of those things with that? Now, we're a small piece in the pie compared to what Patrick talked about. Our school district's a rural school district in Southwest Wyoming. We've got about 2,800 students, 8 schools. And so, but I think the challenges and the opportunities are the same. Doesn't matter if you're 80,000 students or 10 students, you're going to have the same challenges, especially when it comes to technology and the opportunity of what technology brings into a classroom.
All right, great, thank you. Erica?
For me, technology and sustainability really is about the district mission statement and goals, and aligning personnel and money or resources to those goals. And I have to concur with both what Patrick and Jaraun said. It's also about future-proofing your district and coming up with a sustainable schedule of refresh of devices and platforms and things like that. And I know during this time of virtual learning, during the pandemic, those schedules are kind of blowing up. The schedules that we planned on for refreshment and things are really getting blown up, and we have to kind of think quickly and reallocate money based on grants. So future-proofing is like a huge, I think, trend for technology sustainability. Our district is in north central New Jersey. We are suburban. We're a little bit kind of between Patrick and Jaraun. So we have 6,000 students. We have 10 schools, 7 preschools, and 1 adult community school.
Awesome, thank you. So you mentioned future-proofing. What is that? Because a lot of people are using that word, and I know what it is, but folks may not know what it is. What is future-proofing, and how do you do that when technology is ever changing? Anybody want to jump in?
I'll jump on that one. Oftentimes, I think a lot of teachers, even a lot of outside people, look at technology as just the device. And although they're important, the wires behind the walls and that connectivity is really what keeps things going. Use the analogy with our teachers oftentimes. If we're trying to run traffic like you would on a freeway, and our road is just a rural highway, you're going to struggle. And so for us, when I think about future-proofing, it's really about the network and the connectivity, and where does that look 5 to 10 years from now? Because the things that we place in front of teachers, in front of students, those things can adapt and change. But if we don't have a robust network, we're going to struggle. And so that's where, for us as a district, really that idea and concept of future-proofing really is.
I think Jaraun definitely identified the biggest piece is what people don't see. But I think devices is the second biggest piece, and just being able to make sure that if you stick with one vendor or one company, I know it sounds silly, but to have a new Chromebook from a different brand every year means you have chargers from a different Chromebook. And the ability to just have the same charger for anything seems really silly, but for the people that work in IT and just being able to give people resources quickly, having the same charger for every device and kind of sticking with a plan and keeping going on with that plan is that. And also platforms. So making sure that the vendors that you work for, the platforms that you're using are companies that have been around for a while and will stick around for a while. Because I know in technology, we see a lot of one-hit wonders that will come in, they'll train your teachers and your staff, and then they'll disappear the next year. So for future-proofing, you really want to look at the history of the company, the history of the vendor, and make sure that it will be something that you can sustain.
Yeah, I want to echo Erica and Jaraun as well. I think future-proofing is really, it's not about the device, it's not about the actual specific technology, it's about systems, structures, plans, budgeting. It's a combination of all those kinds of things. I think having a framework, having, you know, guidance in mind when you want to order these things, when you want to refresh these things. You know, to Jaraun's point, you know, it could be Chromebook now, it could be a different Z-book next year, right? And so I think having those plans in place, having that goal in mind is definitely important. So again, echo those sentiments.
Yeah. Wow. So I will say I've been in the school district for about 10 years of my 13-year career. And one thing always comes up: how loose and how tight are we going to be on autonomy? So what does autonomy play? How does autonomy play a role in your decision-making process? And we'll start with you, Jaraun.
So I think it goes back to what Erica talked about, really looking at what is your district strategic goals. And as you think about the tools that you're bringing in, what's going to provide students the best opportunity, but also provide them that safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a fine line. Your safest, most securest network is a network that's not connected to the internet. But that's not an option. Yeah. And so I think really working with your teachers, working with your principals, it's got to be a collaboration. It can't just be me saying, hey, this is where it is. I'm the Gestapo. No, let's talk about this, and let's talk about the pros and the cons. And what are we as a district, where is that risk that we're willing to hold? Still protecting our kids, but what's our risk? And so that's the way we approach it here at Uinta. It's just kind of that collaboration, and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Go ahead,
sorry.
Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, for us as a county office, autonomy is so critical. You know, I think supporting 42 school districts, if you don't provide them with the autonomy, I mean, they already have their own autonomy. They have their own boards they have to deal with. Our role really is to provide that support, that guidance, those resources, frameworks. Again, I mentioned the research, the best practices. And so we can highly recommend, you know, basically the decision-making and the best practices that are applied. I would tell you that, you know, we actually look holistically. You know, we want to look at the needs both in our rural communities, right, as well as our underserved communities and as well as our coastal communities. And so anyone who wants to come to San Diego, you know, we definitely have the best of all worlds here. So looking at holistically is something that we really approach our work in. So autonomy, absolutely key. Sorry, Erica.
No, that's fine. I think also just always keeping the end user in mind. A lot of the platforms that we end up purchasing, we can see them kind of bubble up in our filter and our analytics of what people are using. And we see teachers using certain tools. We see kids going to certain tools. And then when the teachers bring that to us, we investigate it. We have a whole rubric that we use to kind of analyze, making sure that it's safe for them to use, it's aligned with our standards and all those things. So while we try to kind of control the use of platforms, we also want the teachers and the students to bring the platforms to us. I think the hardest thing for teachers and students and parents to understand is like, you can't just purchase it the next day because you want it. It has to go through a rubric and then committee meetings, but we really do rely on our teachers and our students to bring the platforms that they want.
Exactly. All right, so what data systems or supports did your district put in place prior to COVID-19 pandemic that has allowed you to respond effectively? And we'll start with you first, Patrick.
So we, again, because we're a county office, I will tell you that the student information system is one of the most mission critical, you know, systems that are out there, you know, that I know our districts are leveraging, whether it's data warehouses, you know, assessment platforms, really being able to combine all of those things that I mentioned earlier about giving a holistic look at families that really need that support. I know that, you know, we do a survey, combining multiple surveys. We have a school safety survey that we conduct all the time. I know our districts have conducted distance learning surveys, you know, nutrition services surveys. So again, when it comes to data systems, it's a amalgamation of all of these different platforms and really kind of trying to look holistically at basically what that criteria is going to be established. So, you know, we've established some guidance for our pandemic recovery process, looking at families in crisis, identifying social emotional needs. So looking at platform, looking at childcare platforms. So it's a lot of data systems, and big data is key for us.
Wow. Erica?
I would say besides the SIS would also be just like the analytics, and having a single sign-on has been the most important in this time. I have friends who have kids in other districts and they have 28 different logins for 28 different platforms, and having the single sign-on that we have in Morris School District and being able to have an LMS that was already in place, using the analytics of all of those things has been so important. And even being able to track the usage of all of our platforms on our dashboard is just showing, like last year at this time, we had 11 Google Meets total. This year, we have 47,000. So being able to really show the difference and how tools are being used, and then bringing that to the business administrator and saying, okay, we need to purchase this because these are the analytics, and having the analytics to back you on your purchases, I think is really important.
Thank you. Jared?
I think building on that, you know, thinking about the idea of Google Meets, for us, it was Zoom. And before this opportunity, I'll call it, you know, we were probably 10, 15 meetings a month across the district. And then we totally surpassed that. And then just the analytics, being able to see how many students, and then being able to click on what students, that helped our attendance secretaries be able to say, hey, we might have missed one here, but I see that they attended here. All of those components are so important. And, you know, it's been something we've been working on for several years, is this idea of data, and really the idea of data interoperability. You know, as Erica talked about the importance of a single sign-on, it saved our parents. And we had a lot of our parents say, hey, thank you for making this simple and easy, just with that single sign-on. But then for us, being able to look at that analytics on the backside and say, hey, this is what's going on, or these are the things, I think helped us as a department be able to know how we can make things even better, how we could communicate out to parents, hey, don't forget this and that. And so data plays a huge part in a lot of the decisions, whether you're in school, whether you're in a hybrid school, whether you're just virtual. And I think it's important to be able to find the tools that are right for you as a district, but not only have them, but you've got to use them. Data is only as good as the data that you look at and do something with.
100%. You mentioned that you've been doing this for a while, so you're transitioning us directly into our next question. When did your district first decide to move toward technology-centered learning, and how was your current tech plan implemented? We'll start with you, Patrick.
Yeah, so, you know, when I was in the district, technology-centered learning has been, you know, integrated within, you know, all of the districts, and in my own, you know, my previous experiences at district, we've started this work, you know, back in the, you know, in the 90s, right? And so we, in California, for the most part, you know, all of the tech plans, you know, are now included in each school district's local control accountability plan. So by definition, that local control accountability plan process that has a lot of stakeholder groups, a lot of meetings, parent advisory committees, community involvement. It's a 3-year plan. It's updated annually to reflect any changes or updates in terms of programs and services. And so as it deals with COVID-19, you know, the LCAPs and these tech plans are really designed with teachers and students in the same classroom together, right? So, you know, you would see things like, you know, learning labs, or, you know, a STEM makerspace, right? Well, there's no makerspace, you know, remote now, right? And so I think shifting to that remote distance learning really requires this different type of instruction, and all together, all at once, right? And so I think, so even the technology plans that we've had, the local control accountability plans that the districts have had, you kind of look at that, you refer to it, but now you're shifting into a distance learning plan. You know, it's like, okay, what does distance learning look like? How is it defined? It's not just technology, it's really learning from a distance where a teacher and the student are physically apart. So what are some of the alternatives besides technology, right? So, we're work focused on our vulnerable students, and so sometimes they may not have that access, and so providing them with print materials, that's part of our strategy as well. So I'll tell you that again, we've been working on this work and tech plans for a long time. It's infrastructure based. It's a combination of all these things. So it's been around for a long time.
Erica?
The Morris School District, I think, was one of the first in New Jersey to go one-to-one. Probably now it's got to be 15 years ago. I know in the beginning there was lots of mistakes made because the end user and curriculum were not kept in mind, but we have learned from our mistakes, and we have it down to a T now. But I know definitely, just making sure that everyone keeping the end user in mind. And I think one of the best things that we did is with all of the technology that we're using, we have a class for sixth graders called Navigating Digital Systems, which basically makes sure they know how to navigate the learning management system, the SIS, upload things for work. So anything that they have to do virtually or technology was kind of covered in that class. So everyone has that class. And then the other piece of the puzzle that I think is so important is the adaptability of our library media specialists in the K-5.
Mm-hmm.
We're very fortunate in that our K-5 students have library and technology twice a week. So all those little ones from K to 5, they could log in, they can navigate, they can go to Google Classroom, they could find their work. So that, I think, made a huge impact on the transition to virtual learning, is that the students were taught not just how to use the platforms, but how to navigate them. And for the most part, those skills carried over to the home environment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Like keeping the end user in mind, like we sometimes forget that, especially in the hustle and bustle of all the work. We forget that the end users. And thank you once again for bringing up librarians. Being a former director of librarians, like they're very crucial in this time and ensuring our kids get that digital literacy and equity. All right, Jaraun.
Both with what Patrick said and Erica said, as a district, technology has been something that's been kind of in the forefront. It's been kind of the center around a lot of our mission plans. A lot of the district goals is centered around technology. But I think what we really did about 8 years ago was really make that transition from let's buy the really cool gadget just to say that, hey, we've got these gadgets, to why are we having these gadgets in our room and how do we use them? And so really thinking about what technology is best for and what technology isn't best for. And I think goes to value how important our teachers are. And I think across the nation, if there was one resounding thing that was discovered, is our teachers are important. As many of them were doing the best they could via Zoom, via Google Meets, that interaction between a student and a teacher is critical. Tools can enhance, they can engage, but it's a tool. I think another thing that's really helped us, and I think a lot of people could probably nod their head and say, yeah, we got inundated this last 3 months with every vendor, tech company you could possibly imagine, offering everything under the sun. And kudos to them. There's some great software applications. There's some great companies out there. And I appreciated those who were offering it to provide students. But it was nice for us as a district to know that we had some policies in place. We had some things in place that teachers weren't just grasping here and grasping here. And they were looking at everything to try to find that silver bullet that would help us get through this epidemic. But instead, because of the steps that we've taken over the last 5 to 10 years, they were comfortable and confident in the technology that they had. The teachers had their laptops. They knew that the students had their Chromebooks. They knew their LMS system. They knew the tools. They were comfortable and were able to engage with it instead of scrambling to find something.
Great. So we're going to do one more question, and it's going to be a 2-part question, and we're going to do a rapid fire because we have a lot of interest from our attendees, a lot of questions coming in. before we with the registration. So here it is. One, how do you define data interoperability? And then two, what tools have been helpful in attaining data interoperability in your district? And we're going to start with you, Erica. Go.
Okay, I think data interoperability is something that not everyone understands. The best way that I can frame it out is, you know how easy it is to buy something from Amazon? That's data interoperability. You can log in, pay with your bank account, get shipped right to your house. So when you think about education, sometimes people aren't thinking like it has to be easy for the end user to log right in and be able to access all their platforms at once. It's essential for a teacher to be able to log in and see all the data from all the platforms at once. Because we're really trying to make the life of the teacher easier. And also being able to have the students and parents kind of see a roadmap of what their student has achieved. So I think the tools that kind of just help us the most with that are definitely spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, but also our single sign-on, which we use, is Clever, GoGuardian, which we use for analytics. So those are like two of our top things.
Awesome. All right, next, Jaraun.
So data interoperability has been a huge topic in our district probably for the last 3.5, 4 years. The whole idea was really trying to take the data that we had from X, Y, and Z companies, bring it into a central place, and have the ability to be able to look at it, and what can we learn from it, and how do we utilize it. And as Erica said, more importantly, getting to the point where we can get it into the teacher's hands so that they can make quick decisions as to what do I do with Johnny, or what do I do with this small group here, to be able to really optimize the learning opportunities that are provided to students in really a short day. And so we've spent some time working on, and I'll throw out some acronyms, our ODS, which is our operational data storage, and then trying to get visualizations around that. And it's a slow process, but we feel like we're making some headway little by little. And a big part of that is the engagement of all. It can't be just the technology department doing this. As you look at this, it's going to require everyone, from your curriculum department to even your classroom teachers, being involved in what this looks like and how you can make it work for your district.
Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, again, agree with both Jaraun as well as Erica. To me, data interoperability is really having a seamless experience that's pretty much frictionless, right? For our teachers, our staff, our parents. I think, when we have our experiences in the consumer world, getting an Uber, getting a Lyft, that's frictionless, right? And so, if we can somehow create that type of experience for all of our, educational community, right? That would be ideal. Having them single sign on, having them be able to log into a platform, not having to jump around from here to here looking for, their usernames and passwords. That's key. But at the same time, data, right, around assessments, around student. I often say that, we're so passionate about fantasy sports, right? And so, fantasy sports, I wish I could play it again, right? But when you have a dashboard of fantasy sports, it's pretty consistent from platform to platform. So I will tell you that, for us, the tools that has been pretty helpful is really EdFi, and they've been instrumental in really spearheading our efforts here at STCOE. We're working with 7 districts now to really focus on helping them with some of the use cases that they've identified to really assessment data along with their SIS data, along with their LMS data. I think never before, right? This is the time to start doing that, right? Because now, we have a lot of different platforms, a lot of different tools, and so I'm hoping that our parents would get that frictionless experience through our efforts at the county office as well as with our district. So again, frictionless, seamless experience for all of our educational stakeholders.
Great, thank you guys. And now before we transition to our audience Q&A, we will have a brief intermission special announcement. I am pleased to introduce my Digital Promise colleague, Ms. Jenny Bradbury. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, thanks, Duane, and hi, everybody. I am really excited to be here with you today to let folks know about an opportunity that we have available for you all to participate in what we are calling our Data Ready 2021 cohort. So perfect. So what is this cohort all about? It's really about what our panelists have spoken about, making your data work for you, and working towards data interoperability in order to serve all of the key stakeholders in your district. So we have heard from many districts that they are dealing with data in very new ways as a result of this rapid transition to remote learning. And that's presented some challenges. And so we would love to have districts who are interested in working on solutions to make their data work for them to join us in this cohort. And there are some examples here on the slide. You might be trying to deal with attendance tracking now that learning is remote. You might be dealing with trying to implement single sign-on like our panelists spoke of. You may be interested in building an analytics dashboard to make all of the data accessible to folks in one place. We are open to whatever types of use cases you are trying to solve for, and the cohort is designed to support a wide range of use cases. So what do you get if you join this cohort? Well, you get a lot of support. So one of the forms of support is a peer coach who's going to work directly with you and a team in your district to help define the use case that you're trying to solve for and help you do needs assessment, put together a project governance team, and build your project plan. Jaraun and Erica are actually two of the peer coaches who will be participating, so we're very thankful to them for graciously offering to work with other districts. Every district will also have an opportunity to meet with a technology advisor who might be able to help with more technical questions. So you'll have both an expert in technology and an expert practitioner to help you as you and your team work towards data interoperability. We are building a digital playbook, which will be a set of tools and resources and templates that will help you work towards building your tech implementation plan, as well as a PowerPoint that you can use to communicate your plan to key stakeholders and leadership. We do have some funding so that ideally we will be in a place where we can travel again, and we will be able to support that travel as districts come together towards the end of the cohort. And lastly, the funder who is supporting this work has indicated an interest in districts who complete the work and get to a point of readiness for interoperability can submit proposals to the funder and possibly get funding to support the work and take it to the next level. So this is a 6-month cohort. We're planning to launch in July with a kickoff meeting, and districts will start working with their coaches in July. In August and September, the coaches and the technology advisor will be helping districts work with the resources in the playbook to get towards an early level of readiness for interoperability. Then we'll have a half-day workshop in October, which is most likely going to be virtual, where we will bring folks together and really work on completing the needs assessment phase of the work. Then in November and December, folks will continue working with their peer coaches and technical advisor, and then we will wrap in January with people presenting to each other the project plans that they've created, as well as the slide decks that they've prepared that really outline the business case for the work. As this first bullet says, this opportunity is open to district level technology leaders. The idea is that they will then build a team of folks to work with them within the district. And it's open to all school districts, not just those in the League of Innovative Schools. So any school district in the US and its territories. So hopefully you are excited about this opportunity. And if you are interested in learning more about the opportunity, we're actually holding another webinar next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And that webinar is exclusively dedicated to talking about the cohort. So we will answer any questions you might have and go into more detail about what the cohort involves. You can use this bit.ly, which we're going to put into the chat, to sign up and learn more about the cohort. And we hope that you will be interested and that you'll join us. We think it's a great opportunity, and we are excited to work with a lot of districts to help you get towards actionable and resilient data.
Great. Jenny, I have one question for you.
Yes.
How much does it cost to join this?
Great question, Dwayne. It doesn't cost anything. It's free, and and even better than free, you get lots of no-cost resources to use.
Awesome, awesome. I think everyone on here is going to be signing up today. All right, thank you, Jenny. Thank you so much. Now we're going to turn it over to my executive director, Ms. Kimberly Smith, to now take some questions from the audience. Welcome, Kim.
All righty. So Patrick, Erica, and Jaraun, you can turn your cameras back on. We've got some QA coming in, and we're going to try to do this rapid fire in terms of responses, if we can keep them short and sweet. A lot of questions here. So first one is, how have your technology use agreements had to change during COVID? And how are special ed IEP compliance requirements being ensured?
I'll take the first one about the technology agreements. So ours didn't really have to change. The only thing that had to change was video conferencing. We had to create a new policy and adopt a new policy about video conferencing because ours was really outdated. And especially with pupil services and special education, there was a lot of intricacies that we had to deal with. So I would say video conferencing was the biggest thing that we had to update.
Great, thanks. Others?
Yeah, I wanted to just add that California, we have a California statewide student data privacy agreement. And so we want our districts to adopt that as a board policy to make sure that, again, vendors comply with their privacy and that they have restrictions in place. The special ed requirements, that one is a difficult question to answer because, again, it's dependent on, ensuring compliance. And so that compliance is really time bound. I think virtual sessions, hopefully there's some flexibility that the state can grant. It really depends on if the feds grant that waiver or that flexibility to the state, and then the state can then in turn grant that flexibility to the district. So it just depends on really each district and how they've approached the special ed and how they've reached out to some of their districts and some of their students, if you will. And so whether it's virtual, whether it's online, phone calls, those are the things that I would recommend.
Great, thanks.
I'll ditto what both Patrick and Erica said. Ours, we didn't have to change much. A year and a half ago, we redid our policies kind of around student data privacy. And so a lot of it kind of fell in line. That question around special ed, that is kind of a unique one. We were fortunate our state provided us some guidance and some guidelines with it. And so we were able to just kind of work off of the guidelines that they provided and move from there.
Great, thank you. How do you know when it's time to hold, fold, or walk away from a vendor?
I'll take that to start with. That's been a question that we talk about. I think it is important for districts to recognize that they're the ones who contracted with this company. And oftentimes they feel the reverse. Hey, we partnered with this company but you pay them. And so you have that opportunity to fire just as easily as you do hire. I think the question really comes to kind of what Erica talked about earlier is if students aren't engaging with it, it might be the best product in the world and it might have great reviews but if students aren't engaging with it, you're never going to be able to get the data you need out of it. So that's the good time to walk away. And so taking that chance each year to do surveys with your staff and even with your students to say, hey, how is this digital tool working and what are we gaining? Also, if you're changing curriculum and it's not matching what your district goals are, it's time to walk away. They might be a great company, and it might be somebody that Erica works with or Patrick worked with, and they might continue to have success, but you've changed a little bit, and that's okay. Say, hey, appreciate the opportunity. Right now, you're not in line with what we're doing. Maybe we'll see in a couple of years.
Yeah, I wanted to add, Jaraun, that, yeah, I agree with you completely. I think identifying those expectations early on and the outcomes you're trying to achieve, right? I think that's critical with these platforms as well. And so that's when you'll know when to fold them. You know, if they're not creating the impact that you want these platforms to create, it's really going back, looking at the data, managing those expectations, looking and sharing those expectations and saying, hey, this is what we wanted to achieve in the last 3 years, and we haven't gotten there. So we got to go with a different direction. So to me, you know, that is a constant conversation. That's an annual conversation. That's something that needs to be expressed. We all know that any platform isn't fully utilized to its max either. So when you come on with that and share that with the vendors and you say, you know what, this platform, we're not going to use this 100% of the time. We know we're not going to reach that, but we want to achieve these measurable outcomes. And so then you go back and you gauge that. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. I think vendors sometimes try over promise and under deliver when it comes to data interoperability. So that's the one lesson I've really learned in the past 10 years, is to make sure that they are can work with all of the other platforms. But the thing that I really look for in a vendor is a partnership, and it's the people behind the product. All of our best and most used products are run by people and reps that really do care about the kids and the people in our district and care about our teachers. Even during this pandemic time, they were reaching out, not to cold call me and ask me to add more licenses, but to say, hey, can we make a screencast for your teachers? Like, how can we support your teachers more? So really, I've really learned that you have to make sure that the vendor is a partner in education and really does care about all of the end users in your buildings.
Great. Question about there were unplanned costs, right, with COVID-19. We assume around technical support, equipment, et cetera. Tell us what some of those unplanned costs were and how you're budgeting those into your next school year.
I'll start. I think providing equitable internet access, so MiFis and Wi-Fi for students that did not have or do not have Wi-Fi. Many of our students had Wi-Fi at the beginning of virtual learning, but because their family lost a job or something, they were displaced and moved, and the new place they moved to didn't have Wi-Fi. So that's the top of our budget for next year, is making sure that every student has reliable internet access. I can't even, the importance of having the Wi-Fi that we're on right now in our homes and making sure that every student has that type of access, because hotspots and MiFis are not as reliable as what we're using right now. And we're very privileged to have it. So I think that we have to all work together, whether it's with the federal or state governments, the providers, to make sure that every student has access to Wi-Fi that's not spotty, that's not limited, and that they can depend on.
Kind of build off of that, Erica, as you mentioned, especially being in a rural area, having that opportunity for all was a big concern for us. And thinking about that, we were very fortunate. We had some very generous ISP providers who within our community stood up and said, hey, we'll provide for our students. In some of these areas, it's a point-to-point connection that might be 2 megs, but we were able to put in place, hey, if it's going to be a 2 meg connection and there's 3 kids in the home, you're not going to be able to use video. You are going to be able to talk, and here's a phone number on this. And so I think that was a big concern for us. We had the devices, but it was actually getting the devices in the hands of the students. And so that took a little bit of time. Some of the little things that you don't think about was we had 2 report card sessions. Used to be we printed all those report cards out and they were mailed in an envelope, and a lot of touching and stuff like that. And we purchased some new software. It was time for us to kind of get in the 21st century, and now we're emailing those types of things. And so it's those little things that you don't think about that where the cost starts to add up. Repairs. Typically we charge families for repairs during this 3 months, 4 months. We just said, look, we've got this location. You come in between this time and this time. We'll repair it free of charge. We want your kids to be able to get on and have the best experience they possibly can. Doesn't matter if you can afford, not afford, we don't care. Bring your device in, let's get it fixed so that your students can be up and running the next day.
Yeah, and Jaraun and Erica, you guys have hit that as well. I think when it comes to budgeting, those are the ones, the budget that you just can't compromise. It's because access for kids is the priority, right? And so when you have established that, then you can go back to the drawing board, create different scenarios for what next year is going to look like, what the following year is going to look like, and you strategically plan your budget accordingly based on those needs. And hopefully, there'll be some Fed money or some state money that we'll get in the second round in California in particular. So there's a lot of scenarios that I know our CBOs as our assistant super businesses are looking at, and so planning for that is critical. This is priority is kids, right? And so we can't compromise on that. To me, that has to be access for kids is the priority, whether it's internet access, it's device access. Looking at vendors to provide those opportunities, to provide that free access, the cable companies as well. I think that's also, they can step to the plate. Again, absolutely beneficial to help move this needle forward.
To be specific or quantified, and not all three of you need to answer if you don't want, but specific percentage of budget increase as you prepare for remote learning going into the next school year. I mean, can you give us a sense of, like, is this a 10% increase? Is this a 40% increase? Do you know at this point in time?
Well, Kim, I think it all depends on where you were. For us, again, we were already 1-to-1, 312.
Yeah.
We had enough devices K3 that as we looked at everything, we were actually 1-to-1 K12. Not all districts are in that same boat. And so, devices alone, you could have a 20 to 30% increase depending on what you're looking at. As Erica mentioned, connectivity. There's no sense having a device at home if you can't connect. And so that becomes another thing. So that could be significant depending on what's the current going rate of your ISP compared to others across the state or the country. So I guess it would be very difficult for me to be able to quantify, hey, that's a 30% increase or a 40% increase. Just recognizing there is going to be an increase depending on where you are at within your district as far as devices and connectivity.
Right. Okay. This may go hand in hand. How have you managed requests from staff around free resources during this time? And that kind of goes hand in hand. And can you be specific about how you are addressing privacy going forward? So very specific on tangible, tactical approaches on privacy.
So 2 questions there, right? So free isn't always free. There's always a freemium version of it, right? So I think reading the fine print, sending this, to either your district officials to take a look at, I think that would be critical. When it comes to privacy, specifically, I would say sending notifications to companies, right? Doing a letter, doing an MOU, establishing that to me is a specific, tangible resource that can get established. So as an example, one of the districts that we work with, had some issues with Zoom, right? So Zoom bombing, all that kind of stuff, right? And so some of the parents did not want to use Zoom, right? And so we initiated that kind of conversation with Zoom to enlist them to say, okay, we need you to commit to this. Here's our privacy agreement. Please countersign this or we won't use you at all, right? And so hopefully that's a tangible piece and recommendation and guidance that we can provide. I will tell you that we are providing a lot of different resources to our districts, whether it's alternative metrics to collect, considerations, it's a common stuff that we're trying to provide. So I don't know if that answers the question fully, but hopefully that gets the brain going for some of others as well.
That's helpful. Thank you. Great. So Jaraun, can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned being a rural district, there's a question about rural district access, limited bandwidth. and families who struggle with access. Can you talk specifically what your district has done to accommodate?
So yeah, as soon as we found out that we were moving towards what we called the adaptive learning plan, I immediately contacted our 3 ISP providers, and one of them didn't want to engage at all, and the other 2 were more than willing to engage. I knew that one was providing access via, a direct connection via cable or fiber into the home, but the other one was doing point to point. And so I knew, especially in those outside of our rural areas, outside of town, 15, 20 miles, I contacted them and say, hey, we've got this home and it's sitting out away. What can you do? And we were very fortunate that they came to the plate and said, hey, we'll just set up a point-to-point tower and we'll get it up and running for them. And so I think the bottom line is know who your ISP providers are. If you haven't already created a partnership with them, start a partnership with them. They're a valuable resource. Even outside of this, they can become a valuable resource for you. And we thought we were going to have to pay, and more than willing to pay the premium each month, but they decided to give it to free. To Erica's point, as we think about next year, that's something that we're looking at. How many homes? So we know we had 85 homes that we needed to get internet to. We're looking at how do we continue that for 85 homes next year and the year after. So that's our next challenge, is budgeting to be able to pay for that.
Great. And I've got one more to follow that, Jaraun, real quick. So how did you assess which families need devices? Did you do surveying?
We surveyed, we phone called, we went to their houses. As a change of protocol, our registration this next year asked that very specifically. Do you have internet? And it's not saying that I've got a smartphone. No, do you have a true ISP provider who's providing it? And so we did a lot of footwork to be able to get it. And I had some great secretaries, a lot of work from our principals, because I gave them a drop dead date. Hey, I need to know this so that our ISP providers can do this. And they worked really, really hard to be able to do that. But it was a lot of footwork with that. We contacted every student or every family.
Great. In the last 2 minutes, Patrick, Erica, you want to add anything about how you found out who needs access, and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, it's part of our registration as well. And we do survey our families. We even have the teachers ask the kids before they went home. But what we did find is, like I said before, many who had lost access because they stopped being able to pay their bills or because they had to move quickly. And so those are the people that I'm most worried about for next year. And in New Jersey, where we're kind of still in a little bit of an epicenter, what will September look like, and to make sure that we can provide all the students with Wi-Fi. We did partner with our ISP, and they provided access to the hotspots around our city. And we also give them the MAC address of some of our Chromebooks so they can pre-program the Chromebooks to have access to the internet. So that partnership's been going on for about 3 years. It was working really well in non-pandemic times, but when everyone was getting on the hotspots, everyone in town was using the emergency, we saw that connection start to kind of get really bogged down and really slow for the kids. So we're trying to make sure we work hard to address that for September.
Yeah, I'll tell you that a lot of our districts have done surveys. It's part of the guidance that we've given our districts is to really focus holistically, right? And so we know that there are many risks and challenges that our families have, or that they faced, or they're going to eventually face, right? And so when you think about not just digital connectivity, right, and distance learning, but what about health, infection, income loss, unemployment, food insecurity, housing insecurity, childcare, the social piece. So if you look at the entire family unit, those are the areas that we want to be able to address, or at least, find resources and, wraparound services and support systems that we can then refer families to, because all of that to me contributes to loss of learning, right? So when kids come back to school districts just because they had a device is great, but what if their mom and dad, may be out of a job, and so they may be dealing with some different issues that we at the school, again, we have to address and help support that. So I would say holistically, surveys, absolutely. Combining those surveys and making sure that those surveys are designed with the best intention in mind is key.
Great. Dwayne, back to you.
All right, thank you, Kim. Once again, we want to thank you, Jaraun, Erica, Patrick, for sharing your thoughts with us today. I also want to thank our Digital Promise staff for your extra support today. So before we go, don't forget to sign up for next week's general interest webinar to learn more about Data Ready 2021 cohort and how your district can strengthen the data system. Remember, it is free. This concludes the League of Innovative Schools virtual town hall series featuring district leadership. We would like to thank our Digital Promise sponsors and everyone who has participated. You can watch the recordings of the entire series on the Digital Promise YouTube account at youtube.com/Digital Promise. Thank you once again and take care. Signing out. See you later, guys.